Hello, everybody. Ariel Shacks. It's like a reunion. This is beautiful.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to give it just one more minute before I start officially. But as you can see, this is what we're going to be looking at: preparation, opening and closing, timing, how to interrupt, some do's and don'ts, and then Q&A if you've got any questions. But also use the chat as well. If you've got ideas and suggestions that you want to make as well, please go for it. Go ahead and do it. It's nice to see you all from all over the world, which is a beautiful thing. And I will start I'm going to give myself 30 seconds as everybody joins us bit by bit. Jan, thank you. You joined a little bit early and I was just organizing my laptop. Thank you for not chatting as I was focusing on that. I'm also going to apologize now as I'm doing things on the laptop for the extreme close-ups that you might see, which are not my most attractive side. But this is what happens when I'm the technical crew and also the presenter. All right, so this is what we are going to be looking at today. It's really nice to see everybody. I am Femi Oke. I'm the co-founder of Moderate the Panel. I have been moderating for over 30 years, and some of the best conversations I've ever had about moderating have been moderator to moderator, sharing our knowledge, our skills, our strategies, our tricks. And I'm often asked for guidance. I'm often asked to train people, but I wanted to have an informal space where we could share some of the tips, the strategies that I've learned over the years, that I've learned and shared with my team. And also you can share with me as well. And there's no cost. So this is a short webinar. It's a mini webinar. I also should say that there's no one way to moderate. So if what you hear today, if it works for you, please use it. If it doesn't work for you, that's totally okay. You can adapt. You've got your own strategies, your own skills, but at least it gets you thinking. I am going to ask you, first of all, to mute yourself until we head into the Q&A section. You can ask questions anytime, and then I'm going to go look through them through the chat, and also talk to each other if you've got guidance for each other. I want to start with preparation, which is basically the foundations for moderating. And the strange thing about moderating as a skill is that very often there is not a handbook about how do you do it? Where do you start? What are you supposed to do? There's a lot that you pick up through experience and trial and error. But preparation is going to be your best friend. It will give you confidence. It will make you feel like you know the topic. First thing, who's the event organizer? Who's in charge? What is their vision? Have a meeting with them, at least one meeting. Sometimes people want to meet many, 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 many times, and it depends how complicated your event is, your panel is, as to how much meeting time that you need. But do prepare at least one for you to understand the subject matter, and then at least another one before you're about to moderate. So if there are any changes, anything that's different about the agenda or the program, you've got a really good sense of what those changes are. Sometimes you might need to research the topic. Don't be afraid to say that. It's okay if you don't know the topic super well. Your skills are the moderating facilitation skills. So don't go into a session thinking, I think I know this topic. Make sure you do your prep, do your research, do your homework. This is especially true if you are doing something pro bono, because the tendency is, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting paid, so I'm not going to do much work. It should be really the opposite. Do as much work, do as much prep as you can, reading in, understanding the subject. What is needed from the subject? There'll be some technical sessions that will be outside of your expertise, but you need to know what you don't know, if that makes sense. I once facilitated a chemistry forum symposium, and I had to know what I didn't know so that I worked out who from the speakers would fill in those gaps, how to throw to them, and how do I interview on a fireside chat a Nobel laureate for chemistry when I got a B in O level in biology, and I think I might have just got a C. So here we have a Sir, a Nobel laureate. I have my little C O level from 1980 something. And I have to work out how do I do that interview without looking like a complete numpty. So do that prep, work out what you don't know, how you're going to fill in those gaps, and then how you're going to actually facilitate because your skills are the facilitation skills. The format, it's really good to understand what the format is at the beginning and troubleshoot. If it doesn't work for the way that the event organizer has said they would like it to work, do say something and say something as soon as you can. I liken it to if you ask somebody to come in and remodel your kitchen, but you tell them what to do, but you're not an architect and you're not a builder. And so you can get the kitchen you want, but without the expertise of the person who should be really helping you. So it's a collaboration between the event organizer and you. And don't be afraid to say, let me give you an example. Don't be afraid to say, I know you said you wanted it to be interactive, but at the moment we have 20 VIPs doing remarks one after another after another. That is not going to be interactive. It's a hard thing to say because they've asked you to come and facilitate, but part of your job is actually to be able to discuss that quite openly. Does the format fit the purpose and will the format work? And then have that discussion, make your suggestions. You're also a diplomat. So make those suggestions diplomatically, see if you can collaborate together. And if the event organizers, no, I really want it this way, then it is our job as moderators to make it work and then be really creative about how you do that. Part of the preparation, please try not to skip it. Sometimes it's out of our control as moderators, is meeting the speakers. Either ideally a prep meeting ahead of time, absolutely before the session. Sometimes people, because they're very busy and they will come from one session straight into another session. Don't worry, Femi, I'm just going to walk onto the stage. I say, don't worry, Madam Speaker or Mr. Speaker. I will wait for you because I want to tell you what this session is about before you rock up and walk on stage. Sometimes that can't be helped, but that moment, those moments that you can spend with the speakers, chatting ahead of time, that is your secret ingredient to doing phenomenal moderating because you've worked out who's quiet, who's eloquent, who's chatty, who needs a little bit of help to get the best out of them. And I wanted to also share with you a couple of tips that I have been given over the years from moderators that I admire. And one is that when you're working out where do the speakers sit, if you have that ability to do that, the best speaker, the most eloquent, the chattiest speaker, they can sit anywhere. So sit them the furthest away from you because they will be great wherever they're sitting. The speaker that's quieter, a little bit more timid, is really nervous about being on the panel, sit them close to you. So you can give them some reassurance, you can chat to them, you can make them feel comfortable. You're their support animal, right? You're sitting right by them. That's just a seating plan. If you get a chance to do that seating plan, the most confident person can be anywhere furthest away from you. The quietest, the most nervous person, if you can, put them really close to you. For me, as an audience member, the opening and the closing are 2 points where I realize, oh, this facilitator's good. Because within about 30 seconds, watching a demeanor facilitator or a moderator come on stage, I can tell. I can tell they've walked on confidently or they've appeared on the screen confidently, and they're going to take care of me as an audience member. That opening is so important. Spend a lot of time. If you've got a limited amount of time to do your preparation, spend a lot of time on how you're going to start your session, your event. What's the first thing you're going to say? What do you need to do? Basics. Why are we all here? What's going to happen? Very often you will have housekeeping notes, and sometimes those housekeeping notes can be 10 minutes long. If you don't have to do all of those housekeeping notes at the beginning, spot them through the session. Maybe do a couple at the beginning, a couple to a few minutes in, one or two later on, so that you're not spending the whole time telling people about interpretation is important. So that one can't go, but telling them about the hashtag and telling them about the breakout rooms and telling them about the exhibition and telling them about the sponsors and telling them about the house. Do you see that can go on and on and on and on and on? And you haven't really got to the meat of the matter. So plan that opening. What do you have to say? What can you leave to a little bit later? And then be as creative as you possibly can. How do you surprise people? How do you, when you walk on stage or you appear on screen confidently with that I've got this and I've got you attitude, how do you surprise people so they go, oh, this is a bit different. This moderator is different. One way is by an idea, and another way is by actually talking to the audience. I'm going to give you one idea that I used a few years ago at the Berlin Health Summit. So the session was about patients before their ailments. So you put the patients first. I started the session by asking people to turn to each other and tell them about something medically wrong that they had, some condition that they had, sometime that they've been in hospital, not to say hello, just to talk about the ailment. This went on for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and we had diabetes, we had high blood pressure. The conversations were intense. But what I brought up as I wrapped up all of those conversations was we never introduce ourselves by our ailment. I don't say, hello, I'm Femi Oke. I've got high blood pressure and I haven't taken my 2 tablets yet because I wanted to get ready for this mini webinar. That's not how we start conversations. But it was a really good proactive way to get that room to pay attention and to grab their attention. So your creative, engaging, well-planned opening is really going to give you a stamp that will make you look so different from any other moderator. Embrace that, spend that time making those really exciting, creative openings. Let me leave that with you. And then very briefly for your close, the close kind of does almost the same thing as the beginning. It marks you out as being a pro. And that close is, and you can work out what you want to say in advance and then change it. But it could be, thank you for the host. Thank you to the host. It could be, you've had so many choices of where you could be today. Thank you for spending it in this room. Please enjoy the rest of your day. It's smooth, it's conversational, it ends the session. I try not to apologize for, oh, it would have been nice to go on longer. I wish we had more time, because then that makes it look like you didn't have enough time and you didn't pace yourself well. So I try not to apologize for anything. I turn that into, if there's a great conversation going, there's so much more to talk about during break, over lunch. Make it a positive that you're ending where you would really love to continue rather than an apology for having to wrap it up. But again, like the opening, think about how you might want to close, but be ready for at any moment you might hear a quote that is so beautiful, you're going to make a note of it and end on that quote. Steal from your panelists if they've got great things to say. Take from your speakers if they've got something that created a round of applause. You think, oh, that is a great period to this conversation. Use that for your close. Timing is something that seems so simple, but again, will distinguish you from being a pro and from being an amateur. So if you know you have 45 minutes, an hour and a half, work out what you're going to do. What is your discussion arc? How long are you going to spend at the beginning, in the middle, at the end? Use the timing clock. Sometimes it's a manual asking for how much time, and it's held up with 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go, halfway through. But work out that plan. How are you going to time yourself so you don't run out of time? Because The Q&A for me is one of my favorite parts as an audience member because attendees ask the best questions. They have no filter, they ask awkward questions. That's when you say, okay, this session's not just all about me, the moderator, or the speakers, also about you. So leaving time, if there's a Q&A section for that Q&A, is going to be really important. Some of the most dynamic parts of a session will come from that Q&A. So timing it, making notes as to where you should be at what time will be really helpful. Be flexible. Don't think, oh, I'm 2 minutes over. I've got to stop now and move on. But have a sense of your flow and where you want to go. With the timing challenge, you will also have to do something, which sometimes we call interrupting, but it's not. It's moderating. You're not interrupting. You're moving things along. How do you do it? If you've got brilliant, eloquent speakers, heads of state who are not used to being interrupted, or somebody who's just super passionate about their topic, and you're trying to get them to stop talking so you can move on. How do you do that? I'm going to give you 3 strategies. The first one I've just demonstrated, not on purpose, but because we all have to take a pause. I just did one there. That is your pause for inserting yourself and saying, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. You made so many great points. I'm going to share the conversation with the panelists. Did another pause right there. Great. Use that pause, listen for the pause. I'm going to move the conversation on now. Now that we've established this topic, let us move along to use the pauses. Your speaker won't be expecting that. They're just pausing because they need to take a breath. Only the most experienced politicians do not take a breath. Most people, normal people, take a breath. Some politicians don't take a breath. But when they do, or when they look like they're breathing, insert yourself. And this is the second part of this strategy. Keep talking. Don't stop talking. You're a runaway train. So you insert yourself into the breath. They've only paused, but you keep talking because you have to move along. Do not lose your purpose, your goal, your journey. Keep talking. And even when they start talking, you're explaining very nicely why you're moving us along. Most of the time, that works. Sometimes when you've got a very powerful person and they want to talk, sometimes you just have to make that very clear and then, as diplomatically as you can, wrap up, move on when you can. You cannot fight with somebody who will not let you stop and move along, but you can give a few hints as to what you're wanting to do. But most people will respond to that pause, keep going like a train. Second strategy, say someone's name. I'm going to try this out with somebody I know. So, Shax, can you unmute yourself? So
Hello.
if I say Shax, unmute yourself, Shax, so we can demonstrate this.
Okay.
If I say Shax, what would you naturally do in the
You
room?
look up, you pay attention.
And you would
Stop.
say, and you would say yes,
Yeah.
right? So if you just say, thanks, Shax, you can mute yourself again. If you just say, minister, advocate, and they will say, yes. And then you've stopped them. You stop them mid-conversation. You explain where you want to go next. You thank them, and we're going to move on. So literally that name, that saying their name, they will say yes, and then you move on. And again, like that train, don't stop. Keep going, keep talking. I just want to do one more thing. It's like we have 15 minutes for the Q&A. The reason why I'm going to stop you now so that we can do it. And you're very reasonable, very kind. Keep going, keep moving. So those are some strategies to interrupt, calling someone's name, using that pause. And the third one is you prepare with your speakers ahead of time, is you give them a signal. And often you will say, we've not got very much time. So I'm going to give you a signal. So when I do this, I used to do this on TV. When I do this, it means I want to interrupt you, but I want you to finish. So you're collaborating with your speaker. It doesn't always work because sometimes they forget in the heat of the moment and they're so excited and they're saying so much stuff, they forget. But I've been doing this and I've been doing this and I've been doing this. If they're sitting right next to you, a hand on their shoulder, that also works. If they're not sitting right next to you, you can use your facial movements, your facial body movements to show them, which is I do that. And I've told people ahead of time. So you've got a combination of different strategies. Use whatever works well for you, what you're comfortable with in terms of what you will do when you need to manage the time, but you've got to interrupt and move things along. I'm going to be quite controversial here. Three do's and three don'ts. You are the moderator. You can do whatever you want to do. You are in charge. But I'm going to share some things that, as an attendee to watching panels, that I find quite distressing. And then what I find really, really helpful. I'm going to start with the positive. Do's. Do check out your venue, the space. Do a little recce if you can. Go and see somebody else if you've got a session halfway through the day. See how they're managing the room. Go and talk to the technical people. Check out where your microphone is. What kind of microphone is it? Is it handheld? So, oh, okay, you're going to have to hold your tablet, your notes, all of those things that make you feel prepared and on top of it. Go and check out the space. Have a look at the seating arrangement. Does it work for you? And does it work for your speakers? I'm not a fan of sitting people in a straight line because they're sitting in a straight line. You can't kind of see past the person that's sitting right next to you. Some formats don't allow you to curve chairs, but if you're able to curve the chairs, I would always recommend that because you can actually see more people can see each other. So you're looking for seating, you're looking for any technical guidance, you're looking at timing, you're wanting ideally to do a walkthrough and a rehearsal. So that time is for you to prep. Sometimes it's earlier on in the day, sometimes it's the day before. If you can do that, that's your own walkthrough, your own rehearsal, even if the event can't give you one, highly recommend that as a do. Second do, this sounds really obvious, but it's about being fearless. And the do is do moderate. If you need to say something, if you need to bring the subject back on track, if you're wandering off topic, if you need to move things on, don't be hesitant to actually moderate. That's what you're there for. Don't be embarrassed. Don't feel shy. Absolutely do that moderating so that you can steer the conversation. Third thing to do, engage with the audience. They love it when you talk with them, you recognize them. One of my favorite sounds is when you hear from an audience and they go, ooh, right? Something happens, they go, ooh, or something happens and they laugh, or they, oh my goodness, the gasp. You know, it sounds almost like a cartoon gasp, but when you hear an audience go, acknowledge the audience, recognize them. And sometimes it's really nice at the beginning to recognize the audience, depending on how serious your session is, as to what you might want to do with the audience. Stephen Dubner is the author of Freakonomics. He's a broadcaster, and I was doing a live event with him some years ago. And in his warm up, he did something, and I said, "Can I borrow this?" And he said, "Absolutely, you can have it." And he told the audience to turn around and shake the hand of the person behind them. So what should happen is everybody should turn around and nobody should be able to shake anybody's hand. First row, turn around. Second row, turn around. Third row, turn around. But people were doing this and then turning around and doing it. But if they did it absolutely correctly, nobody gets to shake anybody's hand. And it's funny. It creates a little bit of a ripple in the audience. People start chatting. It loosens everybody up. And of course, you can only use something like that in a moment where there's some levity, or you can transition from that to something else. But recognizing the audience, looking at your audience, I would say that's a do. I'm going to do a don'ts very quickly. You might not agree with me. So it's only a don't if you agree with me. Don't read a script. Don't moderate by writing an entire script and read the script. I have seen that. I want to cry. Don't read resumes. They already know who they are. There's often an app. We all have a little phone and we can check people's resumes. If you're going to do a resume, make it creative, write it yourself. Don't read out somebody's resume. And if possible, this is not always possible, but if possible, sit at the end of your panel. So you only have to turn one way and you can see everybody's reaction, how they're reacting. Uh, are they upset? Are they with you? Have you lost their attention? If you sit in the middle, when you turn this way, you're turning your back on a panelist. When you turn this way, you're turning your back on a panelist. So my recommendation, although people often say, do you want to sit in the middle? I would always recommend sitting at the end. And now, let me see if I can find all of your questions to see your questions. And this is where, excuse me for seeing my giant forehead, who somebody once wrote to me on TV and said, your forehead is so big, widescreen TV was developed for you. Luckily, I don't mind being insulted. How interactive should an opening be in your opinion? And what is on a more philosophical level, the bottom line function of an introduction? Interactive as much as I would say, what is the tone of the event? I've just done the Fragility Forum at the World Bank. Violence, conflict, gender-based violence, very, very serious conversation. I still did an interaction, which was, please tell everybody why you're here. It was more gentle. And it was definitely more gentle. But what it did was it allowed people to have that little bit of interaction. So judge the tone, the atmosphere of your event before you work out how interactive you can be. But definitely engage with your audience, however serious the event is. Bottom line function of an introduction, to tell everybody why you're there and then what's coming up. So it's practical and it's purposeful. Should the audience and location be put into consideration before choosing an open? Yes, absolutely. Which is why I said, if you can, one of the do's is try and see the space beforehand. So if you think, I'm not going to start the lectern, I'm going to start in the middle of the stage, I'm going to speak out, and then there's not that space to do that. So go and check the space first, think it through. Often ask as well. You can often ask or research images of what that space looks like so you're prepared. So yes, do. Consider the location, check out the location, go and look at it. If you have any questions, please post them there. Teresa, thank you very much from my team. Already posted a few above. Thank you. How interactive are the panels you moderate? They tend to be quite interactive because my thought is that the reason we are there is not for your wonderful speakers. It's not even for the event host. It's for the audience. We're not there for anybody else other than the audience. So for me, conversational and being with the audience is why we're there. So acknowledging them is always good, even if it's sometimes sharing a moment. Q&A I love, but not all sessions have Q&A. But being fearless in a Q&A, I think that is really, really important. So sometimes the event doesn't allow that. Sometimes the format doesn't allow that. But I think the reason we're all moderating is for the audience. So the audience should be the most important factor as we're putting together our session, our format, and we're moderating. How do you handle things with moderation cards? I remember in my last panel, I had everything lined out neatly on my cards, only to realize during the panel that my panelists jumped to points I've planned for later. Yes, of course they will. because they won't necessarily see your cards. And they've already been to this, you've briefed them a little bit, you've told them what's coming up. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. You've done the discussion flow. But we talk about things outside of our little boxes and our silos. So, one of the things that you'll have to do, even though you've got your cards and you've planned it, but plan also, now that you've planned it, you know that you can jump around. And if somebody says the first thing you are going to do at the end, guess what? Card number 6 is going to be card number 2. And you're going to go to card number 2 because that's the conversation. I know you've heard sometimes, oh, I'm going to get to that in a moment, or we'll get to that later. And you're like, oh, I really wanted to talk about it now. If you're nimble and able to get to it at the time, that's how real conversations work. So give yourself that flexibility. Always, always listen to see if it's possible for you to make a connection, and then you can go outside of where you would normally have planned to go, as long as it's on topic. If it's not on topic, then you have to think of a diplomatic way to bring you back on topic. Inside on stage, I was dying at that moment. Moderator's death. But you know what audience love? They love a good recovery. If something goes wrong and you recover from it, the audience will remember that you recovered, not that you died, and they will congratulate you later. How do you deal with a difficult speaker? I watched you do this once. This is why the speaker meetings and the speaker greetings, the meet and greet, are important. So you know, also having those candid conversations with your event organizers are also very important, because they will tell you this speaker is very passionate, but they talk a lot. Or this speaker, very hard to interrupt because they're used to doing keynotes. And it's not being rude about the speaker, it's just understanding some of their speaking habits and then being ready for that. And also having a little chat with the speaker about, I know you know a lot about this. When I come to you, can you just tell me that one point? Tell me one thing. So you're sort of managing that challenge with that speaker in a kind, respectful, gentle way, whatever is your personality way. But being prepared, that's part of your preparation with the speaker. And you have to do that live on stage. And I think probably the hardest people to deal with are very high level people who are not used to being interrupted. So that's important. So do your preparation for the speaker so you know the personalities that you're dealing with. Do you always have to recap the main points? No, never recap the main points, because your audience is not stupid. They just heard all the points. And sometimes, oh, you can tell I'm passionate about moderating. You may decide not to recap the main points. The reason I'm saying this is because you're in the same room as your audience. And so your audience have heard the same things, and their takeaways may be different from your takeaways. And sometimes I'm asked to actually recap, and I don't recap. I might re-emphasize why we're here, what the point is, call to action, call to action. I would insert instead of recap there, but not recap because we were all there and we were all there at the same time. How do you keep Q&A short to the questions when the audience members want to give their resume before asking the question? Humor helps if you can do humor, but you can also set out the parameters. So name, affiliation, and your question. We have a certain amount of time, so I'm going to be quite strict about that. This is me setting out the framework for it. And I will listen for a little bit. If I don't hear a question, I will say, can you cut to the question? What is the question? Thank you so much for your essay or your thesis. I'm enjoying it very much. We have a limited amount of time. What's your question? So be ready again to moderate the Q&A and just to make sure that you tighten it up. I don't have a question, but a comment, politely. It depends if the comment, depends on your time. Sometimes comments are very, very helpful. If the comment is a statement and it's on a tablet, You can say, do you know, something like, we have networking time and we've got time after this session. I would love to hear that comment a little bit later and we can share it all in our break time. And sometimes with a Q&A, like I'm doing right now, sometimes you get to the end of your session time and I say, this is why we are friends on LinkedIn, on Instagram, so we can continue the conversation there. So there's always a beautiful way to do that. Thank you, everybody, for being part of this webinar. I've really enjoyed you and really enjoyed your time. And thank you for spending time with me here in the webinar. It's just about to stop. So all I've got time to do is to say thank you. Have a wonderful Saturday. Take care.